Hey, what's up, everybody? I am at the park where I stop just about every day to let that go off to warm up before the gym. Started hitting lefty a couple years ago when I would head to the gym every day and I would get my cardio in on the treadmill. And after a while, that got really boring. So, instead of getting my cardio on the treadmill, I would instead stop by this park, which was on the way to the gym, and just kind of hit on the wall for about 20 minutes maybe more if I felt better. Oh, let's get this situated here. Hold on with me. That's about right. Not gonna get too crazy with this. So yeah. So instead of doing cardio at the gym, I decided to get outside, get on the wall, get some sun, get my cardio in, playing tennis. And after a while, hitting right-handed got a little boring. And I like to constantly learn new things. A lot of people do it. It's not just me. So I thought, it'd be kind of a cool idea to be proficient in playing left-handed. I don't really see too many other people doing it. And I don't know, be a cool thing to learn. Maybe play like 3-5, 3-0, 3-5, 4-5, 5-0 righty, and then be able to go out there and play with 3-0s, 3-5s lefty. Because nobody wants to hit with me. Like every time somebody goes like, or I go, yeah, we should go hit, they'll be like, oh, you're too good for me, or like, oh, there's no leagues for me or anything. And I'm like, okay, well, there's not like many options for me to do. So let me play lefty, and I can start hitting with, kind of everybody. If somebody's really good, I can hit righty. If somebody's, intermediate or beginner, I can go lefty. So I thought it would be a good skill to learn. I don't know. Be a fun little novelty. But after a while, I started let's say 3 years ago doing this. But I took 2 significant breaks. The first time was my left arm really needed a break. The top of my left arm, if you can see that, the top part, really got sore. It was not used to the pounding every day. And the tendons, especially the tendons, the muscles too, but mostly the tendons needed a break. So I took I'd say about 3 to 4 months off because, they healed, but I kind of got out of the groove. Then after that, I got back into it again, and I eventually moved to Tampa. And when I was in Tampa, I stopped hitting lefty because I just didn't really have a wall close by to me to hit. Like here, every day I drive to the gym, I pass by these walls, which is very convenient. And in Tampa, it was very inconvenient to try to find a wall on the way to the gym, mostly because traffic sucked. And I was not willing to spend an extra hour plus driving to a wall during peak hours. So let's get this all set up there. Perfect. So I kind of just stopped hitting lefty. I kind of stopped tennis mostly. I would hit a little bit now and then because I knew some friends there that would want to hit. But I kind of stopped tennis for about a year. And then when I moved back to my hometown, because Tampa was just, it was too crowded for me. I was in downtown Tampa, and I felt, I felt claustrophobic. I like it better where I live now. It's a little bit more, not as crowded, but still, it's still Florida. And for some reason, the whole fucking world decided to move here. But once I moved back, I decided to start. I would go back to the same gym that I would go to when I was living here before, and I started stopping by the wall again and picking up Lefty again. And so those were the two major times that I stopped. So I'd say the amount of consecutive months that I've been playing Lefty is about, I'd say about a year. I then put those two significant breaks in there. And it's only been, 20 minutes a day, every other day, probably on average. And then, some days I'd feel better than others. So I'd stay out here for maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And just really just getting reps in. And then kind of just getting a little sweat going, getting my muscles all warmed up so I could go to the gym and do what I had to do for the day. And then I started seeing significant progress in my strokes, and seeing that, maybe I could get to like a 4 or 5 level and, actually compete with people. Make sure that's square. So I come here, drink my pre-workout, get ready for the gym. Saw that I was doing pretty good, and I'm like, all right, and I had a lot of what I think are good ideas because I was relearning how to play tennis again. So every day I was kind of having these new epiphanies about, stroke development and figuring out the game all over again. These things that I already kind of knew, but weren't at the forefront of my brain. And even things that I didn't know, I was just doing kind of subconsciously. So I decided to start recording and just, sharing my thoughts, posting it on social media. Maybe it helps somebody out, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. Just trying to get everybody to start maybe thinking a little bit more, and maybe not so worried about playing matches, but working on the fundamentals of your game and your strokes, and learning how to play better, because it's not all about just playing matches every day. Because most players I know, they just want to play matches, which is fine, but then if you're complaining about losing, well, we gotta train, we gotta actually get better. Anyways, the preaching aside, I just kind of wanted to make a longer form video, kind of just explaining the reason why I decided to play Lefty, because it's not every day that somebody decides to just use the other hands if you don't have an injury or something. And just kind of give a quick synopsis of what I would do every day, and kind of show you that, if even with just a wall, if you don't have a coach, you don't have money for coaches every day, you don't have access to a hitting partner every day or every other day or once a week, or it's just, you don't have time, you can learn a lot from just a wall. You can get pretty dang far in your game with just putting in 15-20 minutes a day of just hitting and just thinking about your stroke and what can you do better every single day. But what I do is, when I come out here, I start with the righty. I start right-handed, forehands, because that's the easiest. It's the easiest way for me to kind of get the blood flowing. And then So forehands, righty backhands, then righty one-handed backhands, and then so righty one-handed backhands, righty slice backhands. Then I would move over to lefty forehand, lefty backhand, lefty one-handed backhand, lefty slice. Then finish with some quick righty overheads, lefty overheads. I've been dabbling in some lefty volleys, but I can't bring myself to do volleys, even though I hate them. But I gotta start doing them. I gotta get better, because you're not gonna be a complete player without volleys. Because if you play against somebody and they just drop shot you all the time and bring you to the net, and you can't put a volley away, you're gonna be. Yeah, I'm just gonna let the camera roll today and just kind of show you, how my trying to be daily routine is on the daily. Oh, and what I meant to say is, when I go from forehand to backhand to whatever, I try to get 20 shots in a row. Not so much in a row, but if I let a ball double bounce or something, I don't count that stroke. And I try to just get 20, 25 significantly good strokes in a row. And then after that, I move on to the next stroke, and then the next one, and the next one. Because, I'm not a coach. I don't claim to know anything, but I just try to give you an insight to what I'm thinking as a decently good player. But I think if you're a coach, you have to be proficient in, I think, all the shots. And I don't mean you have to play lefty, but if you have a two-handed backhand, you should know how to at least get by with a one-handed backhand. Because, you know, you're going to have players that have one-handed backhands, and you got to be able to be in their shoes and know like where they're coming from when they're developing their stroke. Alrighty, righties are done. Now it's time to go to lefty. Wow, what a way to start. Yeah, 4-0 is really, 4-5 is really attainable. Strength is a big issue on that forehand. Even though it might look good on camera or relatively good, it still feels like the weight of the racket is in control on the backswing here, and I don't really have the muscle to really come through it. If the weight of the racket feels like it's in control, the best way I could put it. noticed something on my backhands, my two-handed backhand on the left side, by looking back at videos. On the righty, I'm here, ball close to my body, and I'm brushing up. On the lefty, ball is farther away from me, and I'm hitting it more like if I was playing baseball. Coming here, I'm like cracking across it, slapping it. But really, I need to get that ball closer to me and brushing up. Power's not there because the mechanics aren't there. So, like in the forehands, I did all 20, kind of relatively easy. Now I'm moving to the backhands and I'm having a bit of a problem. So I stopped counting and I just working on getting into the groove. Don't care about counting or anything like that. Just trying to work the mechanics out. And I like this better because I like this better without a hitting partner or a coach, because I can kind of just take my time and really think about what I'm doing wrong and what I need to be doing. Because if I had a coach or a hitting partner, you're constantly worried about like, okay, for a hitting partner, am I hitting good enough for them? There's no real stopping and reflecting because you're having to keep up with somebody else. And then with a coach, we're constantly like bombarding you with information, which is good and all, but sometimes you just want to be able to take some time to yourself and really like contemplate, okay, what am I doing wrong? Let me take one thing at a time, perfect that one thing, and then move on to the next. Sweat. For coaches out there, sometimes it's good just if your player is having an off day and you're feeding them balls, just let them figure it out in their head. Give them like 10, maybe even 15 might be a little bit long, but like 10 minutes to like think in their head, what are they doing wrong? Slow the feeding down a little bit and just let them play with their swing a little bit. You don't have to constantly keep hitting them with information, because then you're just confusing them. You gotta let them do the calculations in their head without any kind of other information clouding that judgment. Now with the one-handed backhand, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a leeway and still count it as a shot if it double bounces, because my one-handed backhand is still got some room to improve. I don't want to be out here all day. Close them strings. wall might not be the best thing for all your strokes or tennis in general, but there's one thing that the wall is the best thing for. It's training overheads. If you can do that, hitting overhead after overhead after overhead consistently on the wall, it will directly translate over into match play. If you can do that like all day, over and over and over again on the wall, you're not missing an overhead in the match, and it's a free point guaranteed. If I don't grip my overhead, the head of my racket tends to want to start facing towards my left. But as soon as I start gripping, it wants to start facing towards where I want to go. So whenever I have a loose grip, it tends to go left, and that's not what I want. I want to come through with a tight grip, so as soon as I hit, it doesn't open my racket up going that way. That's just how I'm feeling whenever I hit overheads. Whenever I have a loose grip, it just, the head of the racket goes somewhere else. Alright folks, that's about it for me today. I need to get out of the sun, freshen up a little bit at the bathroom in the gym. Yeah, edit this video later, so later.